I finished the sheath at like 3 a.m. on Sunday. I was like, oh, it's 3 a.m. So that was kind of like the first form of therapy, I would say. And I loved that feeling of like getting that mental relief. So I chased that. And then a few years ago, I was like, oh, I think I need some real therapy. I'm becoming a workaholic. I think I need to talk to like a professional, which is really hard.
All right. Well, thanks for jumping on here. Appreciate you driving up to do the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
What kind of sword is that?
Oh, I say it wrong every time. It's a Zweihander.
Zweihander?
Yeah.
Here, I gotta dig this thing out. Does that camera show this?
No cameras are going to be able to show the whole thing.
I feel like Hannah White.
Flip it so we can see that dragon scales on the other side.
Oh.
Yeah, why don't you show the cool side? There you go.
Who did this shitty work here?
Some piece of crap. Me.
So this is a sword made by Will Stelter and Alex Steele. And then what kind of leather is this?
So the top and the tip are both American alligator, and they're hand dyed. So that started as a white crust, which is basically just like a stiff, dyeless, finishless alligator skin. And then I go in and I'll dye it. And that specific dye takes like 3 days to cure over the process. So it was a huge skin. I think that was like I want to say that was like an 11-foot alligator. So I just dyed the whole thing and then used the different parts.
So when you buy the alligator skin, it's always white?
Not always. So I can buy it pre-finished, like you see an alligator handbag or something. Oftentimes, alligator comes to makers, pre-dyed, finished, and ready to go. So you can buy it in like a matte, which is kind of thicker, and obviously it's just like a matte finish, all the way up to glossy, which is super thin, and they roll it between agate stones. It's so cool. But I like to get the crust because then I can do what I want with it. And usually like it's a project like this where I can just tailor it to fit however I think it should look, and that's my preference.
That's always, when I see some of your content on your page, I'm always amazed at how, like, all the dyeing process, like the fact that you can make whatever look like you want, which I think is what makes a lot of your leather art look so unique and so cool, is that you're not just buying something that everyone else can buy. You're like making it look how you want and actually making it match the piece it's supposed to go on.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people ask if they can buy that dye, like have me dye skins for them, because there's no tanneries that are offering like that specific. I call it special sauce.
Yeah. You make up your own stuff.
Yeah.
It's cool. And then this is Stingray?
Yeah.
It's so now I've heard Stingray's a real pain in the ass to work with. Is that true?
100%.
Really?
100%, yeah.
Because all the little white beads basically like little rocks?
Yeah, so they're pure calcium deposits, and so we've had like a lot of our stuff is hand stitching. So we'll have a stitching prong that looks like a fork. You stick it on the leather and you punch it through and it makes the holes to stitch. We've actually broken prongs off of that from Stingray. Yeah, it's so strong. And a lot of people won't use it, or they'll only do like watch straps, because the smaller the Stingray, the smaller the little calcium spots, so it's easier to work with. But when there's a will, there's a way.
This isn't bad work for, what are you, 16 years old? 17?
Like 12 next month.
Yeah. It amazes me because, I see this business you've built over the last, how many years have you been, like, actually in business? Not just doing it as a kid, but, like...
Actually in business, we're nearing 6 years.
And you've got 3 or 4 employees, 5?
So there's 5 of us total.
Yeah.
And Zach and I work so much that we're basically 2 more employees.
Zach's the husband that is not allowed on camera because he's not pretty.
Hey, he's pretty. He's just not like...
Doesn't fit the demo.
Yeah. He doesn't like the camera. I leave him at home.
Yeah. Poor guy. He doesn't... Yeah, every time you come up here, you leave him at home.
That's true. I do. I have no...
Zach is actually really nice. In fact, he's way too nice to be married to Francesca. Because anytime I talk to Francesca, you always abuse me.
Oh,
you're always mean to me.
What?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, very disrespectful, honestly. But that's what this new generation, you young people are like.
Well, at least I can make cool stuff.
It's true.
Imagine
I only
if I
use
was
you
useless
for your
and rude.
I only am friends with you because of your leather goods. So TETON Leather Company.
Yes.
She loves it. Francesca loves it when I call it TETON Leather Works. Like on my videos.
It doesn't make my blood boil at all.
You should rename your company TETON Leather Works.
I'll think about that.
Have you bought the domain TETON Leather Works?
I have, actually.
You did?
Yeah.
Because of me?
No. Kidding. What do you think? I'm like, oh, Josh said something. I have to go do that.
Yeah. So TETON Leather Company. You just renamed it that a few years ago because you live basically at the base of the Tetons, right?
Yeah. So we're like an hour and a half from Jackson, Wyoming, and originally our plan was to actually build in a town called Driggs, which is like right. I mean, the Tetons are stunningly, like, they frame the whole area.
Yeah.
But I can't live anywhere any colder than Idaho Falls, and Driggs is like 2 more weeks of winter, and I would absolutely toaster bath
That's
myself.
like 100 miles away, right?
Yeah, but it's in like it's just in a little patch that gets so much colder. I can't take it.
So instead you lived in the boring part of Idaho.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
You live in basically the potato basket, don't you?
Oh, for sure. You drive like 10 minutes in any direction, and it's like potato and cornfields.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
You should have lived in Driggs.
I know, but
You probably couldn't afford to hardly live there these days.
Probably now.
Yeah.
When we were looking, it was so cheap. And I wish we would have in some ways, but like month 19 of winter rolls around, and I'm like, okay, so
yeah,
I can't.
Yeah, but I follow you, and well, not in a creepy way, but I don't like follow you around, but on the Instagrams.
Thank you
and
for clarifying.
It kind of looks all winter like you don't work because you're pretty much on a beach all the time. Is this true?
I love that that's what stands out of my page, not, the cool
well,
stuff
I get
make.
jealous because I don't get to go on a lot of vacations, so I just get angry at you when I see you're on vacation, and you're supposed to be making sheaths for our knives.
That's true, but,
So Francesca makes all of the, is it you or is it your employees? Do I give you credit for making all the sheaths for MKC?
I wish it was my employees, but it's all of us at this point.
Is it?
Yes, because Taskmaster calls, and I'm like, oh, great. Well,
I do. I call and I'm like, hey, can I get 600 sheaths?
Tomorrow?
Yeah.
You didn't ship them yesterday?
Yeah, it's true.
No, all of us work on it at this point. So basically, I have my custom business, which is the stuff like the sword. And I'll do, like tomorrow, today, I'm going to go pick up a piece from Will Stelter.
Mm-hmm.
I'll work with bladesmiths all over still because I enjoy it. That's why I started this.
I thought I was your only one.
You wish. So I'll pick up custom pieces still, and I have like my studio, and then the production side of the business is like anything that needs designing, refining, or if we have a deadline that I know we're not going to hit, then I'm out there with them.
Yeah. With the little people.
With the little people.
Yeah.
I have pretty good little people though.
Yeah. I have really awesome little people. Actually, my little people are bigger than me at this point. They're the actual ones that matter around here, so they keep shit running. Do you even know
how to sharpen a knife anymore?
Hey, I do. In fact, I'm going to sharpen the sword when we're done.
Oh.
Yeah. I just want to Photoshop. Henry, I want to Photoshop some, I want to hold this in at the grinder right close to the belt and be coming across, and I want you to Photoshop sparks in, and I want to send a video or tag like Will and Alec in a video with just sparks showering off of this sword. I think that'd be awesome.
Get their blood boiling.
Oh, I just want to make them shit. Yeah. And I guarantee you Alec would totally have a cow.
Oh, yeah. He's going to fall for it for sure.
An English cow.
Those hairy ones.
Yeah. Yeah. What are those? Highlanders?
Yeah. Can I drink this on here? I'm going to.
Yeah. We're sponsored by Black Rifle. We're not actually sponsored by anybody, but we should be. By Yeti and Black Rifle Coffee.
You're sponsored by hard work.
So I sweep the shop floor and then we put it in the coffee pot. That's man's coffee right there. Camp coffee. Actually, it's not really true. I hit a really fancy button on a coffee thing and it pops out. Your custom work is really how you became known, right?
Yeah.
Like that's where you started with making custom sheets for knife makers.
Yeah, so I had actually started as a knife maker, and I had apprenticed with a master bladesmith, and I had actually worked with quite a few different bladesmiths.
Mm-hmm.
And one day I had this client that had been buying my knives. And I mean, I wasn't a fantastic knife maker, but I was good. I care about my work, like very meticulous.
And you were how old? Like 14, 15?
Yeah, I started at, I think, 14, 15, and then I made knives until 20.
Okay.
So this collector of mine was like, hey, I have a Bowie, big, custom Damascus knife that's like $4,000. Will you make me a sheath for it? And I was like, okay, Alex, I don't make sheaths. Like I would make a tiny little pouch sheath. It was terrible.
Yeah.
He's like, well, I just feel like you could do a good job. I'm going to send it to you. Sky's the limit on the budget. Just make me something.
Mm-hmm.
I screwed that thing up like at least 4 times. And I had no idea what anything cost. So I told him like $300.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't make a dime by the time
I'm sure.
I was done. I had to throw it away a bunch of times. And then finally, I remember I set it down. I had this terrible little desk I was working at. I had no tools. And I set it down in front of me, and I had done a tooled cowhide with beaver tail at the top and braided leather. And I set it down and was like, oh, my God, what was in my head is in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
And that was life-changing.
Really?
I told Zach, like, I don't think I'm ever going back. I think I want to be a leather worker.
And you were with Zach already at that point?
Yeah, so we got married when I was 18 and he was 20.
Damn. Kids.
Start young.
No doubt.
Yep.
You started young on everything.
Yep.
So that's when you decided like leather was the way to go.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. Were you working a day job at that point or?
So I had, when I was 12, 13-ish, I had started teaching myself website design.
Okay.
And let me angle a little better. There we go. Oh, nope, right there. So I had taught myself website design, and my parents had this website that was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy came over, and he was like charging them $45 an hour to make this terrible website.
Yeah.
And so I sat over his shoulder for a few hours, and I watched what he was doing. And after he left, I told my parents, like, I could do that.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, you can't. Stop.
Yeah.
No, you can't. And so that night I stayed up late and I built them a website. And the next day I showed them, they were like, okay, you can have 5% of all the sales from our website. Like, you can be the website designer. It's all on you. And so from there I started getting like different clients, and that was my means of income until, pretty much until leather working. I did that up until we moved to Idaho.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool. And what did Zach do before he was enslaved by you?
Before I cracked the whip on leather, he was a electrician. He did commercial electrical, solar, and then before that, he had done general contracting.
Okay, so you guys, you did the custom stuff for a while, and then when did the commercial side of it start to take off?
Honestly, really take off only in the last year.
Really?
Yeah, maybe like I would say a year and a half was when we started getting into it. Maybe 2 years if you want to like, because I guess we did our first production run for Haley de Rosiers up in Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
That was a few years ago,
Yeah.
but it never really like took off in a big way. We had done like production runs for different brands and companies across the line, but like really, really taken off probably the last year and a half.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. And then you guys have a fairly big business in the like wallets and purses and all that stuff. Besides, you don't just do knife stuff.
No. So most of my work is knife work, super custom, or, any weird requests. But Zach handles pretty much all of our website orders, which is he and another employee. It's like belts, wallets, bags, women's clutches, that kind of stuff. So we have like anything from alligator to beaver tail to, hippo.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
So, what I got out of that whole story is you're a failed knife maker.
Yeah, just another one in the pile.
Turned to leather.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So rude.
Yeah. You failed at being a knife maker.
I did.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been amazing. Like you guys obviously have gotten a pretty good system down, because like our growth as a company has been pretty substantial. And I remember, I don't remember. Do you remember how many knives we were ordering sheaths for originally? I mean, I think we were ordering 40 or 50 sheaths at a time.
Yeah, not that many.
Maybe.
Yeah. And when you hit that point, if you're making 50, you may as well make 500.
Right.
Just because of the setup and just getting things, you know, when you're running something, you know how it is, like you run that thing.
Yeah.
Because if you change, it's a nightmare.
Yeah. You know, a lot of the parts of the country make stuff south of the border in Mexico. And I kind of consider Idaho, Mexico. It's south of our border.
I'm brown.
You are brown. You're my only female brown friend.
I'm glad you're adding diversity to your life.
Yeah, we're trying to.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, basically I had you on just to meet a quota of brown people that I needed to have on the podcast. And female. I don't have to have any more women or brown people the rest of the year.
I feel like I really did you quite a favor.
You did. Yeah, appreciate it. No, it's been amazing how productive you guys have been and how fast, because like now we're ordering 300, 400, 500 sheaths at a time, and giving you guys fairly tight deadlines, and it's pretty impressive. It's interesting because like we've had our own snafus, like trying to learn how to produce lots of numbers. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because like I know you had some in the very beginning, even with us. Like we had some, you sent us some black sheaths.
That was a nightmare.
I got them, and like the black like dye or whatever had rubbed off all over. I think it was brown sheaths with black edging.
It was, and you called me, and I was like, "Oh, Josh is calling me." Hee hee. You're like, "Did you send me a box of melted crayons?" And I died inside. I died. I was like, what are you talking? It was a nightmare.
Well, yeah, and I was like starting to go through the box, and I don't know. I don't remember if it was the dye or something. It didn't like set up or whatever.
Yeah. Well, and so at the time, we didn't have issues using that dye in our capacity. But when you go production, everything gets more complicated.
Yeah.
Everything. And you have to, I hate to say make it stupid proof, but you do. There can't be any variables for human error.
Yeah.
And that one I can't even blame employees at all. But yeah, the dye had just, basically the heat had like melted it. Yeah. And the wax in the leather. Because the leather we use for you guys is super waxy because it's better for the blades. It's just higher quality. It'll last a lot longer. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, though, it's more difficult to work with.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a lot more difficult.
Yeah, because it had kind of like come off the edging, and it had rubbed on. The sheaths were all kind of packed in a box next to each other, and so they just sat in the UPS and just sit there rattling on each other. And man, I felt bad because the sheaths were beautiful, but they had like black scuffing all over all of them. Mm-hmm. It was insane. And I started going through the box. I'm just like, shit, it's like 80% of the sheaths in there,
if not more.
Yeah,
it was so bad.
Oh, yeah. So It is interesting what you learn, because like, you know, for me, for sure, like in the beginning of MKC, you know, the first run of knives I made was 200 knives, which for me, making one knife a month and then going from that to 200, you know, I would have little things where I'd like, oh, I'm gonna just hand grind this handle just a little bit right here. I'll just do a quick little deal, and it won't take long. It'll take like 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. Well, then you start tacking 5 minutes times 200 knives. And then it's another 5 minutes here and another 5 minutes there. I got through those 200 knives, and I was like, this is definitely not sustainable. No. Like, it's not scalable.
No, not at all. And we've had that with leatherworking too, because at this point, if something goes wrong in the shop, it's, where's Francesca?
Right.
And there's different lines that we're running through, not just sheaths. Sheaths took, obviously, a learning curve. I don't send anyone melted crayons anymore, but now we're working with a lot of different designs, like even with the knife rolls that we make for you guys. Mm-hmm. People are like, oh, it's leather, you know how to work with leather. Well, it's completely different. Right. Completely different. Like we use that American Bison, that is technically a garment leather. It's meant for like jackets and stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but you can treat it in a way where it services other purposes really, really well, and it's beautiful. So there's just learning all of the little ins and outs of materials, and people don't think about it.
That's what it's amazing how many people get that leather roll and they don't even realize it's bison.
I know. That's so cool.
I wish I actually had one in here. Our chef's knives, for people that don't know, come in a leather roll, because we want you to be able to take our chef's knives and maybe travel to family's house for Christmas and take your knives with you, or put them in your pack and go to hunting camp or whatever. And that leather roll that you did is like, when I got the first one, I was like, damn. And the amount of comments we get, it's kind of sad, because like, I don't know how many people use it, like actually use it for the intended purpose.
Yeah.
But I've gotten pictures from people of like them displaying, like they store other things in it, and they display it. Yeah, because like their chef's knives might be on their block in their kitchen. Yeah. But they don't want to just like, you're not going to just toss that. No. And you don't want to just throw it in a drawer because it's beautiful. So people are storing like their silverware collection in them, or like all kinds of different things. Yeah. It's cool. Yeah, it's cool but it speaks to the quality of what you're doing, that people don't want to throw that stuff away.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That is probably one of my favorite designs. Because like the brown and the black together, just everything about it aesthetically, and it smells so good. Mm.
Yeah, no, and that's the other thing. When people open up the box, it smells amazing. It's really cool. So what are your goals for TETON Leather Company? TETON Leather Company. What are your, like, are you trying to expand into like bigger stores and more stores? Are you trying to grow this into a really big brand?
Yeah, I would like to, and I don't have many years behind me, experience-wise. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to just grow it in a way that I know that I can sustain it. But yeah, I mean, we're expanding to work with other brands. We've had things in retail stores at different times, and it's always worked out really well. But just trying to keep up with production in a way that is sustainable for us, and I don't want to go so big all of a sudden, and then we're trying to, chase the ball. We're at this point where we're being forced to grow, which is a really good thing.
By us.
By you, yeah. And we actually, you keep me from talking to other brands, because I'm like, hold on, I got to talk to Josh. But we actually just solved that problem. So this has all been on our property. Yeah. The entire business. It has taken over our lives, slowly consuming more.
Sounds very familiar.
Of our home. Yeah, I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
So last week we signed papers on a commercial property in Idaho Falls, which is amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So now we can actually expand to work with more brands, work with more retail stores, and just for our own brand too.
Right.
We can't facilitate everything at once where we're at. So we're going to be moving this weekend so we can.
So you've basically been in your garage, right?
Garage, basement, and it's taken over another room in my house.
Really?
Yes.
That's awesome.
At this point, my house is more workshop than it is home.
Yeah, but that's the American story. That's the American dream, is like, so many people want to go out there and rent the big fancy building. They want to have the big commercial space. They want to be along the highway, and they want to have like all of the bling and the fancy. But to grow a sustainable business, you have to, like us, for what we've done here, part of the reason we're sitting here still on my personal property is we haven't wanted to take on debt. We've wanted to make sure that we grow it really the right way. And we don't want to be forced to take on, same as you don't want to be forced to take on a bunch of work that you kind of need, mm-hmm. but then you can't actually complete it in a quality way or in a timely manner. And then you end up hurting your name, your reputation. So
yeah, it takes a lot of sacrifice. It does. It takes a lot of willingness to like, okay, here's our goal. Mm-hmm. Because I would like to almost immediately hire 2 more people now that we're going to have the space for that. And within the next 6 months, rent out the space next to the one we just got.
Yeah.
But like you said, like I don't want to be in a tight spot with the business. And neither Zach nor myself came from any kind of affluence. Like we didn't have money going into this. We literally bought a piece of, a little hand tool, and we'd sell something and be like, okay, we can pay for an alligator hide. Like when we were first starting,
Right.
young, newly married with a young baby.
Right.
Like we literally built it piece by piece by piece. So I don't want to jeopardize all that hard work by diving in too fast. But now we're at the point that there's some definite diving happening.
Yeah, no, and you've got a little base to operate from, and you can take a little bit more risk, and and definitely finding, I imagine it's hard to find help. It seems like it's hard to find help for people everywhere. We've been really, really lucky, but we're still, we're hiring people really every week almost. There's got to be a point at where you can hopefully bring in some people to help really manage and run maybe the commercial side, where you can concentrate on your custom stuff. You and I are so similar. We're both pretty. We're both young and attractive brown people. But the similarities are that, we both do like kind of fancy custom stuff.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we built our reputation. But, I see it being a challenge for you, especially if you grow your commercial stuff, like finding time to do, because quite honestly, I don't know how it is for you, but like there's definitely more money in the commercial side. Like you can take home more money on that. But your reputation and probably what you love doing is the custom side.
100%.
But you're making one sheath at a time, or I would be making one knife at a time. If you alluded to it earlier, if you screw up a sheath,
oh, you're done.
Yeah, it's a week of work or 4 or 5 days of work or whatever, the dyeing, new leather, the whole 9 yards. If you screw up one sheath in the commercial process, it's a couple dollars compared to, days and hours and several $100s of materials.
Well, like for instance, that sheath that's in front of you, American alligator is $100 a square foot. That's like a mid-range. That's not for buying the nicest stuff. That's just pretty middle of the road. So if I were to screw up something like that, first off, an alligator is not square. A big cowhide, they're massive. You can just cut anywhere on it. If I screw up an alligator, that shape that I designed on the front of that sheath with the little trident looking thing, I can't get that shape anywhere else out of the alligator. So now I have to cut into a new alligator. It's so expensive if something gets messed up.
When I was buying custom materials for like handles, I never ordered anything. I always bought stuff at shows. Do they send you a bunch of stuff to sort through and then you can send back, or do you just kind of order alligator and get what you get? Like, or do you go somewhere and buy it?
I've been really fortunate. The owner or one of the owners of American Tanning and Leather, Christy Plott, is like one of my favorite people. I want to be her when I grow up. I actually got to go and tour their tannery, and it is so cool.
Where's that at?
Georgia, Griffin, Georgia.
Okay.
So cool. Like amazing. We went through each room, and you can just see like the giant drums, and they have their salt room, and parts of the tannery stink. Like
I'm
the
sure.
Alligator. Oh, it's so bad. It's like fishy. Ugh. So Christy and I have a really good relationship, and if I say, hey, I need whatever, she's pretty helpful. Like, okay, let me see what I have, whatever, because they have thousands upon thousands of skins. But typically at this point, with the knowledge that I have gained, I can pretty specifically say what I need. Like, I need a 45 centimeter, because the alligators are measured across the belly. So like, I need a 45 centimeter, crust, grade 3.
Would that be like the size of my belly?
It might be a little small
Easy
for you.
now. Easy now.
I brought a belt, by the way. You need to size yourself.
Really?
I did, yeah. I think Jess was supposed to bring it, but
I don't know if I'm fancy enough for one of your belts.
I'm trying to make
real
Jess
fancy
a really
person.
cool one. You're not fancy.
She's fancy.
She won't let me make anything exciting.
Really?
I could throw down on an awesome belt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For her?
Yeah, or you. Well, I know already know what you're getting.
Let's get one for her. I want a belt with my name on it.
These big fat letters, Josh. J-Dog.
So you order a 43 millimeter gator skin.
Definitely what I said, yeah.
Isn't that what you said?
45 centimeter
45 centimeter.
across
Okay.
the belly.
Promise I'm
So
doing it.
I'm paying for the belly of an alligator. Like
Yeah.
when I buy an American alligator, I am paying for that belly.
Okay.
That's the primo piece. It's graded by that. Obviously, tannery's not going to send me just the belly. I'd be pissed. But that's the most important real estate on that alligator is the belly. The tail and the throat are just like extra.
What can you
much.
do with those?
That's most of my sheath work. I use the tail and the throat because the grain structure, so the pattern on the alligator is very aesthetically pleasing on a sheath, whereas a belly, for a wallet, it's great.
Yeah.
For a sheath, I think it's kind of boring. I like that there's a pattern change in like the throat. So like the top of that, which I don't know if you guys probably can't see it. The top of that sheath right there, you can see it's really wide, the pattern, and then it gets a lot smaller toward the bottom. So that's actually the throat of the American alligator. So that's a big gator.
Okay.
For that to be the throat. And then that pebbly bit at the bottom is the side of the belly. That's like the love handles of the alligator.
Okay.
And that kind of pattern change, I'll use that stuff that's considered kind of undesirable.
Yeah.
But, in the like luxury leather world, they're going for the belly.
Now, do you go hunt any of your own like skins?
I'm starting to.
Are you?
Yes. So
You should put a moat around your house and put your own gators in it and just
in Idaho, I'd have to heat it.
Well, yeah.
They'd die.
As much as you're charging me for sheaths, you could probably afford to heat it.
You know what? I think my prices just went up because someone gave me a great idea for a moat. No, so I was raised around hunting, but it was like the boys went hunting.
Yeah.
Like the girls just do the butchering. So I remember like my brother got his first deer and I was like, oh, I want to go so bad. I want to hunt a deer.
Yeah.
I cried a little bit because I had to go inside. I wasn't allowed to skin it with them. So now, as an adult, I was like, I'm going hunting.
Mm-hmm.
Forget this. And I grew up shooting, very good shot. I can, but like, I've never been hunting until adulthood.
Yeah.
And so at the beginning of this year, I had told Robbie, Blood Origins, I had told him, hey, like, I want to go out and go hunting and I want to like get out there and hunt some of the stuff that I use. And he was like, say no more. I got you. I'm like, okay, whatever. So a few months go by. I totally forgot I had told him this. He's like, hey, so we're going python hunting.
Really?
What are you smoking? We're going python hunting. What? He's like, yeah. So what dates can you do? We're going to Florida. I'm like, first off, how did he even remember that I said this?
Yeah.
Secondly, like, I dropped one sentence and this guy's like, all right, we're going to Florida.
Yeah.
So I just got back from hunting invasive Burmese pythons in the Everglades.
That sounds awful. I have no interest in touching snakes unless they're completely dead with no head.
It was, okay, the snake part wasn't that bad. You just go, it's a snake, Josh, like, man up. However, the Everglades at like 6:30 in the evening is actual hell.
Why is that?
It's hot. It's sticky. Every bug on God's green earth finds you. And like, so you're on the boat, you're in the Everglades on this little boat that's jetting at the speed of sound. So, we're facing like the driver. And someone behind me would say something and I would turn and literally like 400 bugs would just get up my nostril and just stick. And I like, or like I probably swallowed a dozen bugs.
And you were with the Python, what's his name? The
Python cowboy, Mike Kimmel.
Yeah, he was just on Rogan.
Yeah. So, and Mike is like straight up redneck.
Yeah.
The dude is, because, you see these people on TV or like in their different YouTube stuff and you're like, are they the real deal?
Mm-hmm.
He is the real deal.
Really?
100%. Yes. But what's really interesting is he's not just like, oh, this redneck out in the woods hunting pythons. And he's also not a TV face. He is like extremely educated on just invasive species. Like everywhere we went, I'd be like, what's that plant? And he and his boat guide, the driver, were like, oh, they had like all the information on every plant we looked at. There were these snails, shells everywhere. Any questions I had, they knew the answer. Like
Really?
extremely well educated on the invasive species, where they are. And I didn't realize just how many other invasive species there are in Florida, aside from, because the ones you hear about is python and iguana. There's so many more.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. It's just like a cesspool. It's the perfect environment for animals to just thrive.
Right.
So, yeah. No, we went out with Mike, and we'd start hunting at 6 in the evening. Horrendously buggy. And it's dark. It's starting to get dark. So you're out there with a flashlight, and you're looking for spots to like dock the boat and get out. And I was with a bunch of dudes, which is fine. I don't care. But I'm thinking, like, if I get lost in this sawgrass that's like 6 feet tall, 8 feet tall in some spots, I'm going to die out here.
Yeah, you'd end up being some swamp guy's wife.
Oh, my God. Could you imagine anything worse? I can't.
No.
So it was legitimately the coolest and a little bit scariest thing ever. Like, at one point, we're all getting on the boat, and we're like, where's Robbie? And all of a sudden we just hear, hey, guys. And he was like, you couldn't see him. It was that dense. Like, the shrubbery that you have to go through just cuts you head to toe. You're getting cut. It's hot. Like, the film guys, I swear there was not a minute that they weren't drenched in sweat.
Really?
Oh, like their shirts looked like they dove in the water.
Ugh, gross.
It was.
Did you catch a snake?
We did.
Yeah.
So I was hoping for like an 18-foot python.
Yeah.
That didn't happen. But I did catch one that was longer than I am tall.
Really?
Yeah. So that was pretty cool.
What'd you do with it?
So basically you catch it by the head, like you grab it behind its head right off the ground.
Do they bite you? Like, does it hurt when they bite you?
They try to. So this little guy was so small that I couldn't get behind him. And the guys were making fun of me because they're like, why are you faffing about? They're from Wales. I don't know. That's a thing. I don't know.
Okay.
So I'm trying to grab it, and it's turning and it's striking at me, and it struck at my boot and stuck in the bottom of my boot. And I was like, get off me. So finally I grabbed it behind the head, and Mike, Python Cowboy's like, you need to relax your grip. The harder you grip that thing, it's going to like fight you. So it's like wrapping around my arm. And I was like, okay, I understand what you're saying to me. And my brain is telling my hand to relax, but I'm holding a snake that's trying to eat me. I physically could not relax my grip. Like, I was pulverizing that thing. It was like turning it to dust.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And so it did get my thumb. I have like little prick marks, but nothing bad. No.
So they're not poisonous, huh?
No, they are not venomous. They're constrictors. So that's how they kill their prey. And I had posted a video, which I'll pin on our Instagram, of a python that ate a 5-foot-long alligator whole. So that, just think about that. It literally constricted, killed, and then swallowed whole a 5-foot-long alligator.
You would be like a Scooby snack.
Oh, yeah. And I'd be like a treat.
Jeez. Yeah, it's crazy. So with the invasive species stuff, like, because you were also shooting a bunch of iguanas, right? Which I always remember. I had a buddy that was we used to call him Lizard Boy. He had an iguana in his house here in Montana when I was in high school. It would just hang like on his clothes in his closet. It just lived in his bedroom.
That's gross.
Yeah, it was pretty gross. And his bedroom kind of smelled like an aquarium. But the iguanas I always thought were super cool, but I guess I didn't know until you had gone down there. But you were shooting iguanas like they were goddamn gophers.
I actually held back. I could have probably got twice as many.
How many do you think you shot?
Oh, I haven't counted the picture. I'll look on our Instagram. There's a picture of them on the front of the boat.
You think like 10, 20?
At least 20.
Really?
At least,
Jeez.
yeah. And what's crazy about that is I had heard, like, oh, invasive iguanas are in Florida. You know, and you see videos occasionally. But I didn't know how big the problem was. And so we're going through. And
why are they a problem? Like, what do they do?
So basically their nests, their burrows, I think a burrow is the proper name for it. They go in and they completely erode like the sandy banks or like the dirt coming up on the sides of these canals. And a lot of it is in residential areas. So like you're driving through on the boat and we're between like, you know, anywhere from $1 to $10 million homes.
Yeah.
We're just driving up these canals. And people are out like, hi, just waving at us. And they're out in their like shorts, watering the lawn or doing whatever. And there's iguanas right next to them everywhere. Like they look like.
Do you yell at them, take
flies.
cover, and then just open up?
No, unfortunately, we can't shoot toward their homes. I'm a good shot. I could have got more.
Yeah.
But I couldn't shoot toward homes. So, but you're driving through and all of a sudden you'll see like holes all in the side of like a bank. And it's iguana burrows. So the town that we were in was a really small town. So for a small town, think about their budget for the year, trying to just maintain, you know, maintenance and control problems. They had spent last year, $1.7 million just on repairing iguana burrow destructive, you know, problems.
Jeez.
That's a ton for a small town. So that's happening throughout Florida in different areas. And I don't know, apparently it's just not as exciting of a story to tell as the pythons, but that's super destructive.
Well, that's probably really what it is the pythons are just so nasty. I mean, because like iguanas, I think iguanas are cool, whatever. They don't really, pythons, no thanks. So,
dude, they're tough. So we get on the boat and Mike's like, hey, you got to shoot these in the head. If you miss, it will live with that pellet for the rest of time. Like, they will not die. I was like, okay, sure. Like, he's exaggerating. Literally, there was one I think I shot, like, in the head probably 3 times.
Really?
It finally fell. And then the dog, so he's got bird dogs, but they're iguana dogs. And they'll go retrieve it for you. And they're still trying to fight the dog by the time you've shot it.
Do they bite?
Oh, yeah. Well, no, I mean, they do, but their claws and their tails are more the worry.
Oh, really?
So they'll whip so hard that they'll, like, cut your skin.
Oh, really?
Yeah, their tails are like it's just like a barbed, sharp whip.
Do you make sheaths out of the iguanas?
So that's something we're working on, actually. I
want 600.
Yeah, yesterday.
Tomorrow.
Okay. I'll work on it tonight. So I already use invasive python and invasive lionfish. Iguana is the next one. So I should have some iguana leather in the next, 2 weeks. So I'm on the board of Inversa. So we go out and we target.
What's that?
Inversa Leathers is a company that we target invasive species and we turn them into luxury leather.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I could buy python all day from, Vietnam, from farms, but there's tons of them in Florida. It's ridiculous that everyone gets their pythons from overseas, and it's like, just buy the ones that, there's tons of them. I mean, we found one the night we went out, but, Mike's got so much python leather. All these different hunters have tons of python leather.
Does he sell it to these leather places?
So Inversa, we're going through and basically contracting with a bunch of the different hunters to start buying their skins.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is python leather pretty cool? Does it look good?
It's super cool. Yeah. It's amazing, actually. The natural pattern is my favorite. A lot of brands have turned it into kind of almost like a plasticky finish on top. It's horrible. But the natural pattern, yeah, it's stunning.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Super, super nice. And it's illegal in California because, they don't want the ones that are being farmed.
Everything's illegal in California except for stupidity. So
that's true. If you breathe wrong, you might get arrested.
Yeah, if you're stupid, they'll make you governor. So, wait, aren't you from California? Sorry about that.
Could have skipped that entirely.
Yeah. Well, I'll never forget that.
I know you won't.
Well, that's really cool. I mean, it's cool that you were down there getting that experience. It definitely sounds like a place that's not for me. I'm not real big on the hot, humid. I bet your hair is interesting down there. Does it just puff up like crazy with the humidity?
It does, but this is really gross, so just hold on to your horses.
Okay.
We were in so much brush and like sweating from head to toe. I'm pretty sure my hair was like just dreadlock sweat.
Yeah.
Like it was disgusting. I had like bugs, sticks, mud, sweat. My hair, give it like 4 days, full dreadlocks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
nasty.
Gross. I was gross.
Yeah. Well, what's next with your with TETON Leather now that you've got this new building?
Mm-hmm.
What are you hiring then right away? What's your goal, and then how do you grow a leather company? Are you going out and actively, like, are you buying ads? Are you trying to target stores, other knife companies? And if it's other knife companies, we better be first.
That's funny. So at this point, we have been fortunate enough that I haven't really had to reach out to other brands. They find us.
Yeah.
Which sounds crazy, and it is crazy. Sometimes I can't believe that other brands just literally see us and they're like, "Oh, we want to work with you."
Yeah.
Which is so cool. So cool, because like I'm 28. I didn't come from, I taught myself this completely. Yeah. So at this point, having the commercial space, immediately want to hire people immediately because we need to keep up. We are starting to put our custom goods in a few different magazines for like drop ship order. The plan is to just start working with more brands. Yeah. We've had quite a few that have reached out in the last like even 3 months. Quite a few that I've had to just be like, well, we'll have to work with you when we can.
Right, when you can grow.
Yeah. So our next goal, I would like to start doing kind of like the white label OEM for as many brands as possible.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. It seems like, because Zach handles the wallet business, right?
Yeah.
Wallet bags. I mean, it seems like, man, your guys's, I have a beaver tail, right?
Yeah.
Beaver tail wallet. And the quality of that thing, like the way that beaver tail holds up is unbelievable. I really feel like your wallets, and I haven't really seen the bags, and I mean, I've seen them on your website, but you haven't sent me a clutch. Which
you would
really
look amazing with a cute little, like,
I know.
Yeah.
I agree. But the quality of your guys' stuff, I would think a lot of that kind of stuff could explode. I mean, the wallet business, I mean, hell, every dude in America carries a damn wallet. It seems like a huge potential customer base.
It is, and we've had, I think it was last year, one of our wallets, it was a woman's clutch wallet.
Yeah. Which
I don't carry one of those. They're huge, but most women do. Ended up in The Guardian, and that was huge for us.
What's The Guardian?
Like the newspaper.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It ended up in The Guardian because it was made with the invasive lionfish. And that was pretty big for us. Got a ton of, interest in our wallets after that, like a lot of loyal clients. And like you said, like your beaver tail wallet is super durable. I would say 85% of our customers will buy again.
Really?
Yeah. Which to me, that's a big deal because our stuff's not cheap. It's not inexpensive. Right. So for someone to see that they enjoyed what we made them so much that they'll buy it for their family members,
right,
or another one for themselves, like that's a big deal to me.
Yeah, and that's what we've seen. I mean, we have more customers with 2 or more of our knives than we have customers with 1.
Yeah.
Which is, to me, because again, it's not a cheap item that we're selling. But for people to like it so much that they go and buy another one, whether it's for themselves or as a gift, is the ultimate compliment, And I think our businesses are so similar, and it's why it's cool working together. Starting from kind of nothing, growing it up, just, basically one knife or one wallet or one sheath at a time, and reinvesting into that, and then just slowly building. I think there's a hunger for that in America, that American-made, American dream. I'm getting ready to say nice things about you, so can you turn her headphones off?
I'll just have to come back and watch it later.
Yeah. But to build what you've built at 28 years old, and as a female, really in kind of a male dominated area.
Yeah.
As a young female to go out and do what you've done and kind of fight your way to the top. I mean, I met you in 2019 or 2020.
It was right before you started MKC.
Yeah, so it would have been that would have been 2019 or 2020 because I started MKC in I think it was 2020 maybe that we met. Was it COVID year? Or the year before?
It was at Rick Dunkerlee's Hammer Inn.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to remember. I don't think that was COVID.
It was COVID.
Was it? So it would have
Yeah.
been 2020. We met there. You were doing custom sheaths. I honestly, I think it was 2019. I think it was the year before COVID. Because I remember it not being really a thing. I think it was a thing at Rick's the next year. So
okay.
Yeah. In fact, I think he ended up maybe having just an abbreviated one that next year. So yeah, 2019. I was just cutting prototypes. I was a year away from launching a website. You were, I don't even know, like you were making sheaths, but were you making a living at it yet?
Yeah,
that point.
Yeah, it's been our main means.
But
of
just
income.
custom stuff. You weren't doing
Just
any
custom.
commercial.
Yeah, no, only and like I don't have a marketing team. It's our biggest, sales is just word of mouth.
Yeah,
it's been our biggest thing. Yeah,
but your story. I mean, you are the marketing. You guys should continue to tell your story because, like, your story is amazing, and especially, you had some childhood trauma. You got off to a bit of a rough start, and it's been challenges. And you and your husband, especially, how old were you when you had your baby? You were
21.
21 years
Just
old.
turned 21.
Married at 18. Like, that's a lot. That's a lot to like. At the same time, also try to start a business. Like,
yeah, it's so like my childhood. I don't want to say nickname, but for lack of a better term, my childhood nickname was Piss and Vinegar.
Yeah,
I'm an extremely determined person.
Yeah,
and I've reined that into now just a little bit of vinegar. But for me, I've been very fortunate. Like Zach, being an electrician, doing solar and all that is very stable and reliable and normal.
Right.
So I was like, hey, you know how I'm cutting up leather on our rented living room floor? Do you want to quit that good job you have and do this with me forever? And he was like, okay.
Yeah.
Super chill guy. Thank goodness.
He is.
And yeah, it wasn't an easy start, but even just like as a kid, I remember I had wanted horses. And my parents were like, well, find a way to pay for it yourself and you can have horses. Don't give me a challenge because I'll do it.
Yeah.
So that was kind of, the start of like, oh, I can make some real money and get the stuff that I want. Like if I just work hard every day until I die, I can do what I want. I can accomplish my goals. So yeah, I didn't have, in some ways my childhood was amazing and in other ways it was very much not.
Right.
Definitely things to overcome and work through. But, everyone can choose the direction that they're going to go. And I don't want to stop.
Well, and maybe we'll save some of the traumas for another podcast because some of that's unfolding. But how have you dealt with some of that stuff? Was there therapy? Was there
yes,
meth?
Just a little bit on the side.
Yeah.
That's how I got the gray hair.
Yeah.
Yeah. So being extremely driven to start a business, and like I didn't have anyone teach me leatherworking. It's literally been sheer willpower. Self-taught. And honestly, that is kind of the first form of therapy that I had without really realizing it. If I can create something, like huge mental load taken off.
Well, you can get lost in your work. I mean,
100%.
And not that I had like traumas or anything like that, but it's just easy to go to the shop, whether you're making knives or sheaths or whatever. It's easy to get sucked into your work and look up at the clock and realize you just you just spent 4 hours in your shop, and it seems like 20 minutes, you know.
I finished, which there's still some stuff I'm going to add to this, but I finished the sheath at like 3 a.m. on Sunday. I was like, oh, it's 3 a.m. So that was kind of like the first form of therapy, I would say. And I loved that feeling of like getting that mental relief. So I chased that. And then a few years ago, I was like, oh, I think I need some real therapy. Like, I'm becoming a workaholic.
Yeah.
I think I need to talk to like a professional, which is really hard.
Yeah.
That's a hard step for a lot of people to take.
Right.
And I think it was hard for me. I can't imagine. I know for men, it's like an even bigger deal to tackle mental health. But I just hit a point where I told Zach, like, I'm not doing well internally, and like this helps, but like we have a family to raise, and I would like to function, and just something, I need help.
Right.
And so I've been in therapy on and off for like 3 years. And, you know, the first one was like, meh. The second one, she was super helpful. And my current therapist is amazing. So helpful, like life-changingly helpful. It's not an easy route.
Right.
And earlier this year, I just dealing with a lot of symptoms of post-traumatic stress. My therapist had mentioned, like, well, have you ever thought about doing any kind of like ketamine treatments? I was like, isn't that like a party drug? What are you talking about? At first I was like, is she insane? But I did some research on it, and it's incredible, the work that's coming out of people doing. I don't mean like going out and, you know, taking a bunch of ketamine and landing in a K-hole. That's stupid. Don't do that.
Yeah.
If you go through, and you know, there are the people that just take it like as a party drug. I cannot imagine anything less enjoyable.
Really?
Literally, that sounds like a nightmare. I don't know how people do it as like for fun. Oh my gosh. Ugh. Worst experience of my life, but the most life-changing treatment that I've had.
Does it just bring up all the memories, or what does it do?
No, so you go into it with an intention, like something you want to get out of it, and you try to, it's a very controlled environment. You have, you know, the administrator that does the whole thing, and so you want to be like stress-free, and you go in and you're like in this dark room, and I am not like the type to just go out and try. I've never been the type to just like go do drugs. Yeah. That's not my thing. So it was a little weird. It freaked me out a little bit, but
no, I don't blame you.
No, but I trust my therapist, and she, you know, she knows what she's doing. But you go in and basically you have an intention of like, all right, this is what I want to cover, and it can be in a way that you want to improve your life, or it can be something you want to let go of, like anger or, you know, anxiety or some kind of trauma response that you may have. And they compare it to a burger. So the lady told me, you know, you may get a really good, like gourmet burger. That might be your experience in ketamine. And it's about an hour, because that's the half-life of ketamine. You may get an amazing burger. Your time in there might be so good. Or you might get a burger that's been in the garbage can for a week.
Oh, really?
So it's 6 treatments over the course of 2 weeks, back-to-back torture. And you have to see your therapist within 48 hours of each treatment. I got one good burger.
Really?
Every other burger was actual living hell.
Really?
Oh, so it's, yeah. And I don't say that to like, that sounds really bad. I don't say that to discourage people from like doing it.
Are you like laying on a bed, like looking at the ceiling, freaking out? Are you asleep? Are you?
So you're in a recliner, and they put you in a dissociative state, which means like you're there, but you're not there. And ketamine was originally used as a anesthetic in like the battlefield because it's extremely safe.
Okay. Does it kind of paralyze you? Can you like
move
around,
move
get up?
around, but you shouldn't get up. Not with,
okay.
You know, I mean, you'd be like, ooh. So basically you're in a recliner. have, at least the place that I went to, you have eye cover, goes on, headphones in, instrumental music, no lyrics, because you don't want it, you don't want your brain to get like distracted. And you are like totally out of reality. Totally out of reality. And the first few times I had a friend go with me and like hold my hand because I'm pathetic. It's fine. I needed my comfort person.
Yeah.
And then my therapist was like, you still have someone going with you? What? I'm like, oh, I didn't know. I didn't know that was a thing. Like, I'm not supposed to. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's more effective, though, if you can be totally in the zone.
Oh.
So you're in this room, in a recliner, totally dark. You don't want to hear anything going on around you. Ideally, you don't want anyone else in the room with you because, you want your brain to be in a state of where it can heal. And it's putting
Right.
you in neuroplasticity. So it's a very sensitive time. So I finally went without my friend, and without distraction, the treatment was like way deeper.
Really?
Way deeper. Yeah. Like it was still not good. It was horrible. It was incredibly unenjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
But I could feel the effects were way different. And I had kind of a visceral response. So like, even with the meds to keep me from vomiting, I would still just everywhere. Like,
Really?
well, yeah. I'd get in the car and I had to go to the barf bag every time.
Really?
I was like, oh, Zach, like, I'm so sorry, but I'm going to barf next to you.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Was Zach like, man, what did I sign up for?
Probably. He's probably thinking that every day. Are you kidding?
This car I bought's a lemon.
The wife is the lemon.
Yeah.
And I'm not, that sounds really, I'm not trying to discourage people from doing it.
Right.
I think there are so many people that could benefit from doing it the proper way.
Mm-hmm.
I really do.
So you feel like coming out of that, you're in a more like a place of peace then?
Absolutely. Yeah. I went into it extremely anxious. I have never slept in my life. Like, I don't sleep.
Mm-hmm.
That's my reality. People will be like, oh man, I'm so rested. And I'm like, I have never, ever been rested, ever. Anxiety to the moon.
Mm-hmm.
What? Completely has changed that.
Yeah, you slept last night till like noon.
Yeah, I tried to. It's thinking annoying. I could
She
hear
was
you
like-
making coffee.
She was like, I'm going to get up and work out with Jess. I'm going to be out in the shop with you at 7, Josh. I was out in the shop at 6:15. I started the parkerizing, and then I cleaned the whole floor. And Francesca comes rolling in here at 8 o'clock. So you are sleeping well.
I am
can
sleeping
attest to
well.
that.
No, like my health, my mental health, everything is so much better.
That's great.
I can handle like the day.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a completely different person. I don't even know how to put into words how life-changing that treatment was.
Do you think you'll have to do it again? Or will you do it again?
So that's something that I don't think I'll have to.
Because I've heard that, like I've heard with the ayahuasca thing, people come out of it totally changed, better place. But then it sounds to me like people definitely like almost need a maintenance dose of it, like once a year or something like that.
So I think it depends, and I'm not as familiar with ayahuasca and all that. I know it's a kind of a different setup.
Yeah.
And it depends how you do it, right? So I did infusion because it's 100% bioavailable, bioavailability. So, and doing it in conjunction with therapy makes it a lot more effective.
Yeah.
And so my therapist was like, oh, go check out these 2 facilities in town and like see which one you're comfortable with. Because it's all about set and setting. Like if you go in and it's like, this is a bad experience, it's not going to be as effective. You need to feel safe and calm, and you need to really have your goal set.
Right.
It's an extremely medically precise, like I wanted to listen to the T to like everything they said. And the lady at the place I ended up going to said like, well, we might see you in a few months. And I was like, excuse me? What? I am not doing this again. This was hell. You will not see me ever. And she's like, oh, well, sometimes people start to go back to their like habits or patterns, or they'll, might be 3 months, might be a year. And then I brought that up to my therapist, and she was like, it depends. She's like, it depends on the person, but
Right.
I don't think it's been quite a while now, and I'm, you just have to be mindful of what you're doing, and like, oh, I don't want to fall back into these things. Catch yourself on step, 1, not step 20.
Right.
So,
No, makes sense.
yeah, life-changing, absolutely. If someone is like struggling with their mental health and they're like, I don't want to go to a therapist, that's embarrassing. Yeah, it's embarrassing. Yeah, it is. Just do it.
Yeah, it's not something to be embarrassed by at all. And in fact, to me, it's more of a sign of strength of taking action. Because it's easy to tamp things down. It's easy to procrastinate. It's no different than getting in the gym and taking action to get in shape or whatever. Taking classes to get smarter to run your business better, or, you're taking action to improve yourself. And you probably, unless you're just single with your dog living in the woods somewhere, you also kind of owe it, if you have close family members, whether it's husband, wife, kids, whatever, you quite frankly, owe it to them.
Absolutely.
Because they're the people that have to deal with your ass,
Yeah, 100%. If I can parent my daughter in a way that is even marginally less traumatized, she deserves that.
Yeah.
So much.
Yeah.
Like,
well, even if it gives you more patience with them,
yeah.
If you're more rested, you're more, just clear-minded and focused on her or your husband or your business. All of those are positives, obviously. And,
100%.
The other thing I would say for sure, I mean, I've heard Andy Stumpf talk about it. He's a big, badass Navy SEAL guy, all that stuff, right?
Me too.
And, yeah, just because you went swimming doesn't make you a Navy SEAL. But, he talks about going, and it's been life-changing for him. And also, just because the first one doesn't work out, sounds to me like you went to 2 or 3. Just because you go to one and it's not a good experience doesn't necessarily mean that it's you or that it's not the right thing.
No.
I mean, there's, a lot of that I do think is personality fit too. Like, there again, are you comfortable? Do you feel comfortable talking to them? Is it a setting that you're comfortable in? And do they seem to be able to understand, the difficulties you're dealing with? And let's face it, it's like with doctors, right? I mean, you don't go to a brain surgeon for a foot problem.
No.
Right. And like some therapists, I'm sure, are going to be more suited to deal with childhood trauma. Some are going to be better to deal with divorce, relationship problems.
Yeah.
Right. War. Not every therapist out there is going to be able to talk to a Navy SEAL about the difficulties of war.
No.
So, it might take 3 or 4 or 5 people before you find the right therapist to go and talk to. But I think it's a worthy effort to try to make sure you find the right one.
And I think what some people don't realize is, especially if you have suicidal ideations, right? You are struggling every single day to live. Maybe it's not every single day. Maybe it just comes up once in a while in a wave.
Mm-hmm.
Your entire life focus, if you get help, can be shifted. You're
Right.
already waking up and living every day, and you might not want to be. You can change that to actually a point where you enjoy life.
Right.
And I can't speak for everyone, but I can speak for myself. If that's something you've never experienced, it seems really hopeless.
Right.
Once you experience that, it's like, oh, this is this how other people live?
Mm-hmm.
It literally is like this is like a different reality. Like, I can just wake up and want to be alive.
Yeah.
Not just like, oh, I'm here and I feel level. Like, oh, I want to be alive. Like, I want to go out and experience life.
Right.
It's not, I'm going to fight to go do something because I have to push forward. That's my thing, is like, I'm a very goal oriented and like ever forward. To not have that feeling, but to be like, I want to do this. You're already going up the hill of life, carrying a boulder. Like, just let the boulder go.
Right. Yeah,
lot
and
easier.
that it's a great way of putting it. And you know, to stop the cycle too, to end it, because I don't remember what the stat is, but the likelihood of children committing suicide that had a parent commit suicide is astronomically higher than other kids. Like once that happens, then the children of that person are so much more likely to commit suicide. And so to just be able to go get help and to end that cycle, or not potentially put that burden on your own kids and your own family is that right there is plenty of reason to go and deal with it. You know, the other thing is too, is like I was actually saying to you last night, it doesn't matter, you know, there's people with absolute perfect childhoods, perfect parents, everything that grow up and become shitbags and do drugs and get completely off the rails, right? Yeah. And then there's people who grow up in the worst imaginable conditions possible, and they go on in life and thrive. And to me, and you know, I don't have those kind of traumas and whatnot, so I'm speaking somewhat out of my ass, but at a certain point, it's on you to decide that was before. Yeah. Now we move forward. And you could be the son or daughter of a rich person and be like, well, my dad got rich, my dad was famous, or my mom was famous, but that's not me, right? Like, you have to live your own life, whether it's starting from the most traumatic or the most luxurious life. Like, your life is your own. Yeah. And to leave everything else behind you and then build your own life, I think that also gives you a sense of worth. You know, it's interesting because I was listening to a podcast about World War II veterans and why did so few of them kill themselves versus like guys today, right? And I think it leads more to our society of there was a sense of accomplishment and a sense of worth 50, 60 years ago. There was purpose, there was drive. Like, we were coming out of the Great Depression, and people were starting to thrive and build an economy and be busy, and they were blue collar jobs, hardworking. And there's so many people sitting at home now, not sure who they are, what they want to do. There's not that sense of worth. You know, it's accomplishing something, and that's what your business has been. Really, is like, even through your struggles and whatnot, at least you had a sense of purpose with your sheath making.
100%.
And with your knife making. So it was a sense of a bit of a distraction, I guess, but also it was something, like you said, you can lay this thing on the table and be like, man, look what I created. Yeah. You know, that's a real sense of purpose.
Like I said, it's the original form of therapy for me is creating things. I don't know what my life would be or that I'd be alive if I didn't have an artistic outlet.
Right.
I mean, genuinely, for me, it is life altering. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's not to say that like, oh, I went to therapy, I did ketamine, I'm healed. That's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. But if I am having a day where I'm like, ooh, it's not an amazing day, I put away everything else and I go work on custom stuff, because I know that, and I've said this for years, every piece that I create, and it's so like artsy fartsy of me, but that is a piece of who I am, tangibly made and put out in front of me. Yeah. And there's something really special about that. And like you said, like, people now, they're sitting at home, they're like, who am I? You don't have to be anybody. You're on social media, and social media is a beautiful thing. Mm-hmm. You and I have built businesses on social media. Right. It's fantastic. Right. However, it's not amazing for mental health. Right. If you're looking at social media and you're like, oh, my life should be 5% better, that's not helping you in any way.
Yeah, it can be. I mean, depending on who you follow, what you follow, you can curate your own feed. Yeah. You know, and it can be super motivational. It can be inspiring. Or it can be, you know, you can open up your social media and be like, well, I'm not as pretty as her, and you know, I don't have the cars that he has or the house that they have, or, you know, my husband and I live in this tiny little house and whatever, like, you know, or you can follow people and your feed can curate motivation and drive and work ethic, and
it takes grit though.
it does. Yeah.
It takes inside. You have to develop that.
Yeah.
Nothing. If you're like, it's not coming easily. Yeah, it doesn't.
Right.
It does not come easily.
Yeah, and I give you a ton of credit because you've built your social media off of really just the quality of your work. I actually used to give you tons of shit because you'd never show your face. Like all of your videos were all your hands, and I'm like, here's this like super beautiful woman that's very attractive, and she never shows her face. And it's like, I'm like, Francesca, you have to start showing your face.
You would call me and be like, your hands, first off, are disgusting, and I don't see your face. I've been scrolling on your feed for 5 minutes. I haven't seen your face.
Yeah, I like started going down through, and I'm like, what's the deal with her not showing her face? Like, because you know, it is an advantage to be an attractive female. And you see so many Instagram pages that's what it's all about, is there's no actual talent behind them. It's just, TNA. But
what's TNA, Josh?
Tits and ass.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure you knew.
Yeah. No, you were just hands.
My little gremlin hands.
Yeah. But you look through your social media now, there's much more of your pretty face there.
Thank you. And that's part of therapy too. Like, you want to be successful in your business. I've always made beautiful things.
Yeah.
I haven't always been comfortable being present in my business.
Yeah.
And that's something I've even covered in therapy is like, hey, okay, so I'm not comfortable in front of a camera. I'm not comfortable getting the spotlight. Ooh,
Right.
Ooh, all the ick.
Yeah.
Ugh. So if you can work on like, because depending on the traumas that you've been through, like I didn't want to bring that attention to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something I'm still working on. Like I had a guy walk up to me like 2 months ago. I was getting pizza. My hair was up. I looked like a troll. And all of a sudden this dude walks up and comes right here. And he's like, Francesca? I was like, do I know you? He's like, it's me, Jim. I'm like, who's Jim?
Yeah.
And it full on like freaked me out because here this person recognized me from Instagram.
Right.
I'm still coming to terms with that.
Yeah, it's a little bit odd.
It's odd, but especially just coming from the background that I came from, I was never comfortable. I didn't want to show my face on Instagram. Right. So to have someone now, like, I'm putting my face out there, I've been working on it.
I know you have.
So to have people recognize me is like, ooh, it's the next step in just kind of accepting the whole thing.
Well, but you are the face of your brand, and it's something that you should definitely be proud of. It is an accomplishment being a young female that, as young as you are, the brand that you've built, the business you've built. No, it's super cool. So, and it also is an inspiration. I have 3 daughters. It's also an inspiration for other girls out there that are like, if they want to do something where they get dirty and it's, quote unquote man's work type stuff. You're definitely an inspiration to those kinds of girls that want to like, see other women doing stuff that can kind of follow in your footsteps. So,
well, thank you. I would like to set a good example. Actually, something I would love to get into as our brand builds is workshops for kids.
Yeah. Like
free, if it's small school groups or like homeschool groups that want to come, and I will teach them for the day, like make a little project, like get your hands involved. That is something I would love to start offering. Yeah.
4-H is a, there's people who are 4-H leaders that just do the leatherwork part, and they have like kids come to their shop once a week to work on a little project, and then they show it at the fair. That'd be a great organization to kind of help do that through, because
talk about that,
because it provides a pretty high quality kid as well. And you can just volunteer to be a leader and say, hey, I'm going to hold meetings twice a month for the next 6 months. And then you can take your little projects to the fair and display them. So
I like that. We'll have to talk about that more.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause, I've got, my kids are in 4-H with like animals and stuff, but there's a lot of kids around here that do shotgun shooting, or like our friend Will here does the woodworking part. And, he's got little younger kids and whatnot that are in the program. But then 6 or 8 of the kids come to his wood shop at his house in his garage, you know, a couple times a month, and they build their little wood shop projects.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So, well, anything else exciting?
Just moving into the new shop this weekend. That's it.
Yeah, that's very exciting.
Yeah, I need to take one of your MKC flags for the wall.
Okay. Also, and we also have bar signs. I'll give you a bar sign. LED bar sign. They're pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're really cool.
I'm offended you haven't sent me one already.
Where can people find your stuff besides on our website?
TETONleather.com. Oh my God, stop. TETONleather.com.
TETONleather.com.
Yeah, and on Instagram, Teton Leather Company.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Zach and Francesca Ritchie.
Richie, yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you. Thanks for all the amazing work that you do for us. Our customers love it. And it's cool. It's cool to, you know, it's what I say about, like, you know, having American made businesses and manufacturing in the US. It's not just our employees and whatnot, but like as we build, then it helps companies like yours build.
Oh, absolutely.
And then your company helps other companies that, you know, you're buying materials from. And it's this cascading effect that I think if every small community in the country had a small manufacturing business, this would be one hell of a country as far as business goes.
Actually, I was going to ask you, and I forgot as you're wrapping this up, just pause.
What?
At Rick Dunkerley's, what was it that made you realize that, like, you wanted to use me for leather work? Because I remember that was my first time teaching or like doing a demo. And I was here with, like, you know, incredible mastersmiths that were demoing. Like, you were one of them.
Yeah.
Like people like Bill Rupel, like big names. And Rick asked me to do my little demo. And afterwards, you were standing at the back and you were like, well, all I know is she's going to be doing my leather work for the rest of my life. And that was like a big deal to me because I was so out of my league. What was it that like made you decide that?
Well, you were cute.
Oh God.
No.
So annoying.
No, the demonstration you did clearly showed, and I mean, at that point, what was that, 4 years ago? So you were like 24.
Yeah.
But your demonstration clearly showed how much expertise you had. I mean, you were already at 24, so incredibly advanced with like how much you knew, the fact that you colored the dyes and you did all that stuff. Now, I had no idea MKC was going to build. I just, at that point, was really focused on like the custom sheath part of it for my custom knives. But I felt it was obvious to me that you could match the quality of my stuff. So to me, it's a whole package, right? And I just never really had the interest. I shouldn't say it wasn't the interest. Like, it would be cool to be able to make my own custom sheaths. But I had other things I wanted to learn and try. Like, I would rather be forging a new Damascus pattern than messing around trying to do sheaths.
Yeah.
But it was obvious to me at that point that you had all this talent, and then you were only going to get better. It's like at 24, if you're already this good, then what are your sheaths going to be like when you're 34? And I liked you. I thought you were an awesome person, had a great attitude. Like, everything about it, and also wanted to support you because you were young and upcoming and all that, but not that you needed my support. But no, It was, your demo was the part, like, you brought all these hides. Like, a lot of times people come in for demos and they kind of half-ass it. Like, you could have demonstrated, I felt like, that whole day. Like, you could have easily done a demo for a whole day instead of 1 hour. It was impressive.
Well, thank you. I have wondered that for a long time, and I've been meaning to ask you, but thank you. And, like, at this point, I don't think it can be said that I didn't need your support because it's been instrumental in us growing. So thank you.
Yeah. No. Well, let's stop talking nice about each other.
Yeah.
This sheath here is really cool. What is this?
That's American Alligator. So that started as just a bright, bright orange. It was called Sunset.
Yeah.
And I dyed it to have the black because, you know, it matches better. Isn't that so cool?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's got our little mini speed goat in
I
it.
dove in Florida ocean water with that in my pocket.
Really?
And I didn't realize like half an hour later, and I just dumped out like a bunch of water.
Bunch of salt water.
Yeah.
Well,